Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be doing some card analysis, but instead of looking at current cards, I want to go back and take a look at the cards of yesteryear, see what Bushiroad's B team was cooking up in the past, and how it failed spectacularly. So join me as we take a look at Vanguard's Barely Supported. So let's start things off with a bang, or probably more accurately a whimper, and take a look at a new archetype introduced in the V series. Crazy, right? A format almost entirely comprised of rehashed units actually introduced something new. Today's topic is Blue Wings, an archetype introduced in VEB08, My Glorious Justice. The Blue Wings are a series of 5 units in the Alkaforce clan that are meant to serve as somewhat of a support to whatever deck's boss unit is, as the archetype itself lacks one. Let's start off with the thing that all the units in this archetype share. Every member has the auto ability that on either van or rear guard, if you drive check a heal trigger, you can stand this unit. On first glance, this might not seem that bad. Technically, every card has the possibility to be a restanding vanguard. Not to mention any other units on board can also restand, leading to a potentially amazing early game. Now, the skill is once per turn, so you can actually chain heals and constantly restand your board, but in theory, it sounds alright. But of course, the reality of the situation is that these scenarios are incredibly unlikely and not really worth banking on, and I'm sure you've already realized why. You only have 4 heals in a deck. Drive checking a heal trigger isn't something that never happens, but the likelihood of you actually hitting it at the correct timing is incredibly low. Furthermore, as we're going to discuss later, all Blue Wings are either grade 1 or 2, meaning that you only have 1 check to get your restand. We'll talk more about this skill later, but for now, let's get into the units themselves. We'll start off with Blue Wings of Empathy Maxios. He's a grade 1 with 8k power and 10k shield, and aside from the typical Blue Wing skill, he has the following ability. On rearguard, if you have another unit with Blue Wings in its card name, this unit can't be chosen by your opponent's card effects. But if you have 4 or more other units with Blue Wings in their card name, all your rearguards cannot be chosen by opponent's card effects. So, on paper, this ability isn't really the worst. It gains resist while you play an archetype, and even gives blanket resist to your entire board as long as you commit hard enough to the strategy. It's also nice that it counts units, so riding a Blue Wing contributes to your count. Unfortunately, this ability is severely limited by the card pool of Blue Wings. As I noted before, there are only 5 Blue Wing cards and no grade 3s. That means the only way to realistically get the full board protection is to play out only Blue Wings. While the protection is nice, it means that you're playing out subpar units and taking away space for better units. Next up, we have Blue Wings of Faith, Balisa. This is a grade 1 with 7k power and 10k shield, and the additional skill of when it's placed, you can counterblast 1 to reveal the top 3 cards of your deck and add any Blue Wings revealed to your hand. The rest get shuffled back into the deck. Now, while the 7k body does kind of hurt, the ability seems pretty good for what it is. In the best case scenario, this skill is a +3 to hand for 1 CB, something that would even make Enterana blush. But of course, the reality of the situation is that in most cases, you'd be lucky to even add 1 card. The limited number of Blue Wings that maxing them out on the deck is 20 cards, which is nice and all, but a serious commitment to deck space. And of course, we can't forget that Vanguard is a game in which you must play 16 triggers, meaning that you have so many opportunities to completely whiff on this skill. Following that up, we have Blue Wings of Resonance Maxios, a grade 1 with 7k power and the additional skill that it gets an extra 5k while you have another Blue Wings, but if you have 4 more Blue Wings units, it gets 10k instead. So just like Maxios makes it so that the only way to maximize the potential of the archetype is to fully commit to maxing out on all the members. As for the skill itself, it's fine, I suppose. You need names in order to play the deck, so having one that gains power isn't the worst. But the worst part is that he's a 7k base. Going up to 12k or 70k is decent against Axel or Protect numbers, but it's absolutely pitiful on Force numbers. Even as a booster, it fails short. Probably boosting a 9k makes 21 or 26, which are still bad numbers against anything except maybe a G-Boss unit. Getting into the grade 2s, we have Blue Wings of Great Calls, Phalios, a grade 2 with 9k power, and the skill that when he attacks, you can CB1 and Soul Blast 1 to give him 5k, but if you have 4 or more other Blue Wings, you can restand him instead. So I don't think I need to say this, but Phalios is probably the worst Blue Wings. Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1 for 5k power? That's worse than most overdressed cards. Maybe they costed it like this because it's a restand, as if Aquaforce doesn't already have better restands for less. Not only that, but they decided that a restand with power was so broken that they had to take it away. Look, Aquaforce is no stranger to swinging under, but there's so many different and better ways to increase your attack count. I guess you could put it on Axel Circle, but honestly that's a waste of a circle that could be better used by literally anything else. Despite all this, you still play it because you need the names. I don't know what great cause Phalios is supporting, but it isn't going anywhere. And lastly, we have Blue Wings of Obduracy, Simon. Anyway, he's a grade 2 with 11k power. His other ability is that unless you have another Blue Wings on board, he gets minus 5k power. The text specifically states that this includes Guardians, so theoretically if he gets attacked by a 20k attack when you have an empty board, you can actually guard with a Blue Wing 10k shield. Funny interactions aside, this is probably the closest to Blue Wings has to a boss unit. To be fair, there are worse strategies. You could always stay on Sim Eon as your Vanguard with a full board of Blue Wings and grade 2 game your opponent. Having a Blue Wings Vanguard reduces the number of rear guards you need to commit to get the better skills of the Blue Wings onlines. Maxios will protect your bard, Maxios is a strong unit, and Balisa can add more rears or shields, and Phalios can restand, I guess. The 11k base is tough for most decks to crack without committing boosters or riding up. Not to mention you get a full board restand, Vanguard included, if you hit a heal trigger. Mr. Invincible, eat your heart out. That being said, it's still not very good. You won't make a lot of advantage unless you consistently call out Balisa over and over, and banking on heal triggers really isn't a good idea. So that's it. That's the entire archetype. It's funny that an archetype based around having multiple archetypal rears would not only have no ways to actively search them out, but only 5 members. We've had archetypes based around specific trigger types since such as God Hand and Ancient Dragons in the V series, but none of them have really found any real success. Unlike those archetypes, this one doesn't have any inherent way of stacking the deck. Even in Premium, there's no way to stack triggers in Aquaforce. So what could we do to make this archetype more playable? Well, first of all, I think it's really in the wrong clan. Something like OTT, where there are already a multitude of ways to stack the deck, would make this strategy infinitely more playable. Honestly, being in any Keter clan would be a boost since they have access to that grade 3 dragon and could at least stack a heal in Premium. That being said, could a deck centered around heal triggers ever be a possibility? Vanguard has limited heals from the very beginning for obvious reasons. Playing more than 4 heals would artificially extend games and increase the already sacky 6 damage heal. But I wonder, if players could play more than 4 heals, would they? With crits being the best trigger type, would you really want to cut down on the number of crits you can play in a deck? Getting back to the Blue Wings, what they really need is some kind of actual boss unit instead of being relegated to just support. It would be really interesting if they had some kind of condition to either play more heals or else have the exclusive ability to recycle them at a heavy cost. Having to balance your heals and resources during the game might actually prove to be an interesting gameplay mechanic. While you can guarantee your heals, you have to consider whether to stay in heal range or push the opponent. Heals are much more of a defensive tool, so you sacrifice a great deal of offensive pressure by using them. It'd probably be really annoying to face against, but whether it would be good is anyone's guess. Here's a build my deck tester came up with. It focuses on the Ripple Ride line as a way to swarm the fields and get full board restands, even without hitting a heal trigger. Now, of course, Blue Wings themselves don't actually have a grade 3 boss unit, so you can choose almost any Aquaforce boss unit as the main grade 3. Before I leave you guys, I do want to mention that this was actually the first episode of Barely Supported that I created, which is why some of the editing and effects aren't really the greatest, but the next episode should have much better editing quality. So, I'll see you guys in the next one.